All right.
Hey,
Hello.
working?
Hi.
I think we're live. Are we live?
Yeah. I'm Nasra Rawahi. I'm
Hi.
thrilled to introduce someone special, the CEO of Southern Time Production. Tim, you have been openly HIV positive since 1996 and nearly died from AIDS in 2009.
Yes.
Can you take us back to that moment and how it changed the course of your life?
Sure. And do you want to translate into Arabic the question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to translate it, the question first?
Okay,
Nasra?
sure.
Yeah, translate it
Um,
first, just so we get.
yeah.
Yeah.
يعني أنا يسرني أنا من سلطنة عمان نصرة رواحي يعني من دواعي سروري أن أرحب بالرئيس التنفيذي لشركة Southern Time Production. أنت يعني من 1996 أنت يعني اكتشفت أنك مريض بمرض عدم كسب المناعة، وكنت أصلا يعني على مشارف الموت يعني في 2009. ممكن تشرح لنا وتخبرنا يعني عن حياتك، يعني كيف عشت هاللحظة؟
All right. That's it. Okay. So back in 1996, I just made it to Germany, and I went to audition to study at a music Hochschule in Germany to study the cello, the violoncello or violin cello. It's a classical European instrument. It's like a big violin, for those unfamiliar. And I've been working since I was 8 years old uh, um, at it, and as well as the piano since I was 5 years old. But by the time I was 12 years old, I knew that's what I wanted to do in my professional career. I wanted to be not just a music teacher. I wanted to be performing musician. I wanted to get accolades and crowds cheering for me, clapping, yay, all that stuff. So I want adoration, and so I was working really hard to get there. But my father was not that wealthy, and he was old school. He European, which is belief that once you're 18, you're no longer the parent's responsibility. If you want higher education, you have to fund it yourself. That's old European culture, and so especially among the working class, and so he, and all my peers came from wealthy families, pretty much, and so their parents were willing to send them to. I'm Canadian, and so the good schools in North America are in United States, and so their parents were able and willing to pay multiple thousands of dollars per year to send their kids to great universities to study with really great teachers. I didn't have that option, and so I heard that Germany had free education for anyone who could get into their higher education system, and so I was praying that somebody would. I happened to meet a professor who studied there and could get me over there, and lo and behold, I prayed when I was like 16, and by the time I was 17, I met this guy, a professor from an adjacent province in Canada, a teacher at in a small city, and he had studied in Germany himself and sent his students over there to study with his colleagues in Germany. And so I was like, oh my God, this is my chance. And so I performed for him. he said, I have potential, but I have a lot of bad habits. I'd have to study with him for at least a year. And so, then I was like, great, this is my chance. I'll be able to get free education, and, I won't be a burden to my father. So I went to study with him. 2 weeks later, he was sexually abusing me. Right. And that went on for the next 2 years. Yeah. And it's not just sexual abuse, but psychological success. The guy was a genius, very well educated. He spoke multiple languages. And he happened to be African American, coming from, so he was abused. Hurt people, right? It's just, that's the way humans are. If you've been hurt, until you heal, you hurt others, because you want to get that wholeness back. If somebody stole something from you, you want to get that back. And so people, when they're immediately hurt, they do whatever they can. They're not getting they feel so empty, and so the pain is so bad. They want to lash out, so they cause pain to other people. And I'll get into that later, because I did that too for many years. I hurt other people, but eventually just time heals all wounds, right? It's just a matter of time. You eventually realize hurting actually does not help, and actually giving is the way to healing. And so, so I was with the professor for 2 years. I got to Germany, and a month after I began my studies, or no, a week or two after I began my studies, I had a mental breakdown. My father had passed away a year before, so there's no longer that threat. But I needed to tell someone what had been going on with the professor. And so I wrote my mom a long letter and told her what happened. And a week or two later, she called me on the phone, and she said, you have to get tested for HIV, because she heard from a friend of his that he was HIV positive. And he, so I was studying for 1 month, and then I got tested, and I found I was HIV positive 1 month into my studies in around end of October 1996. And so I was only in Germany for 1 semester. I came back to Canada. I was 20 years old. And then HIV in 1996 was still a death sentence, right? There was, the life-saving medications that were to be just came out that year, protease inhibitors, but they didn't know how effective they would be. But they knew they came with a lot of bad side effects. And so I had to take 9 pills a day. But the doctor said, this is the best we can offer you. Like, if you don't take them, you maybe have 3 years to live. If you do take them, all I can promise you is you have 10 years to live. And so I was like, oh, great, I might live to 30, and, taking these poisons that make me feel sick all the time. And so what do I do with the remaining years of these lives in these 10 years? And so it's like classical music, European music was ruined for me. So only other music I identified with was classic rock from the 1970s, like Led Zeppelin, Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, Jimi Hendrix, that kind of music, that Pink Floyd, that kind of music just really resonated with me. And so I said, I can't be too hard. I'll become a rock star, and I have a great story to tell. I'll change the world, because I knew how messed up the world was at that point. And, and I now identified more with people in the global South, in the developing world, than people in the developed world. I know, because living with HIV in the Western world, it's people. It's like, oh, you have that. Oh, okay. It's not too much stigma. People, especially in the early years in the 90s, people felt sorry for you, but there was no backlash. There was no discrimination. Like in Africa now, people, you can lose your job if they find out you have HIV. Even in South Africa, where 1 out of 5 people have HIV, if they tell their employer they have HIV, they'll get fired. They'll fire them. Still to this day, which is totally ignorant, and or they'll be outcast from their family, or their partner will say, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to get infected. So they just cast them out. That was true in Western countries. I did not date a woman for over a decade. Like or not over. That's not true. I did not date a woman for 5 years, and then I went on an HIV dating site, and I went with another woman who was HIV positive, and I married her. And that's a very wrong reason to marry someone, just because you have similar disease in common. So that marriage was only lasted 8 months, and it was very horrible. And yeah, so long story short, when in 1997, as I turned 21, I realized, what I can do the rest of my life is make the world a better place with my gifts, my musical gifts, and this my great story to tell. So I wrote my first song, Southern Time, which means the message of it is time for the global South to shine. There needs to be equality in our world, not the haves and the have-nots. We all should live in paradise. Why can't we? Right? We all should have enough food to eat. We should all be educated. What a wonderful world that would be. So that's what started it all.
Great. Thanks for sharing your story.
Okay.
How did Southern Time begin?
Summarize, and before you go on to the next question, do you want to summarize that in Arabic? My answer?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. سيد تم عانى في حياته من هو صغير. كان هو يدرس ويشتغل. كان أبوه يعني والده ما دارس، يعني هو والده يعني كان فقير وكذا، فهو كان يشتغل ويدرس عشان يأمن حياته. بعدها راح أمريكا. يوم راح أمريكا هناك يعني تعرض للاغتصاب من المدرس وعانى في حياته. بعدين اكتشفت من الجيران إنه هو مريض يعني، وراح تعالجه وخذته. وبعدها عانى يعني لما هو بعد سنوات دخل في الموسيقى، صار يعني يتعلم الموسيقى ويعزف عشان ينسى الألم اللي فيه. وعانى عشان في اختيار شريكة حياته، وراح اختار واحدة مريضة مثله، يعني نفس المرض، عشان إنه هو يعني ما حد يعني راح يتقبله كذا يعني. هو أساساً يعني مثل البروفيسور اللي يعني اغتصبه، هو أصلاً أفريقي، فهو يعني من أفريقيا، فهو عنده هذا المرض، فهو اللي أعداه. فكثير عانى في حياته يعني كل شيء.
All right.
Can we go to the next?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. How did Southern Time begin? And what does the name mean to you?
Well, that's pretty much, I already explained that question.
Okay, we move to the third.
Yeah.
Tell us about Dreamers. How does this musical drama reflect your life?
Okay, so starting with the first song, Southern Time, I wrote a few songs before the end of the 2000 or end of the 90s, and then I got married to this lady in LA. She was in Los Angeles and was in Los Angeles for 2001. I saw the planes hit the Twin Towers on TV. I was like, this is a movie. She did not let me play the cello. She didn't want me to pursue music. She wanted to use me to make money for her. And so I came back to Canada, and I was determined to really pursue my dreams. So I bought a $5,000 keyboard synthesizer, and I got on disability because you're HIV. If you're HIV positive in Canada, you can get money from the government. You can live without having to work. But I had a side job. I delivered groceries, and I played in bands. I joined bands, and I played the cello and the keyboards in bands for a few years, and started living my life finally in my latter half of my 20s. And then I after playing in bands for a while, I in 2004 I attended a business course merging music with or art with business, and they gave me the idea to write a musical. And so that became the musical was originally called Southern Time, and which told the story of how I acquired HIV and what living with it has been like for me. Because very powerful story how I acquired HIV, which I, just told you. So, but the details of all that is very interesting, and it has a message for the world. And so I went on tour with one band I was living in Vancouver, and we went to the east coast of North America and toured Toronto area and Montreal. And I realized, why am I playing for this other guy, this other lead singer, who's, he was quite arrogant, why I can sing, I have my own songs, why don't I do my own thing? And so I'd been recording the songs for that would be in the musical since the summer of 2004. And so I had the songs almost finished recording. So I said, why the hell not? So I had $5,000 in my bank. I booked a theater for 7 nights in December of 2005. And by hook or by crook, I just made it happen. I called, I told my mom told her brother, my rich uncle, what I was doing. And he felt really bad for me. And so he gave me $20,000. And then my mom ended up giving me $55,000, and the rest of the money I got through debt through the bank. And so I put on this production, had to cast about 35 people, or 35 crew and cast combined. And it was multimedia stage production, 7 nights, never having acted, produced, or sang lead in a band before. And we got the final night, first 6 nights were kind of a failure. But the last night was a really good show, actually, and it had the biggest attendance that night. About 500 people came, and so that gave me really a lot of hope. And so that's eventually became Dreamer, because then I tried to promote it in vain for the next 4 years, next 3 years, and from 2006 to 2009, with the help of just one friend, and which was another dysfunctional relationship. We never married, but it wasn't nice. And again, I hurt her and she hurt me. You put it that way. And so anyways, I nearly died from AIDS in 2009 because I wasn't taking HIV meds for 10 years or seeing a doctor since 1999. And I didn't believe HIV caused AIDS. I thought, this doesn't make sense. And so I wanted to live. And the medications I had a lot of bad side effects. They're making me feel ill. So I thought, I'll stop them. And I lived. I felt healthy for 10 years. And then I suddenly got AIDS. I got PCP pneumonia in the end of 2007. And then really started to deteriorate in 2008, and then was bedridden for the first 3 months of 2009. And then my mom came and spent a week with me and my girlfriend in March of 2009 and brought me back to Vancouver. And a week after I was in Vancouver with her and my stepdad, I remember walking to the kitchen, but I was actually using a walker because I couldn't walk at the time. Because of spinal cord damage, and I tried to slit my wrists, but I was so weak and thin I couldn't even have the strength to cut my wrists with a butcher knife. I couldn't even make a scratch on my wrists. I was so weak, and so and my stepdad found me in the kitchen, took away the knife, and he called 911. And next thing I remember was being washed by a nurse in the emergency ward. So and then I spent 9 months in the hospital. And it took me 6 years to be able to recover to the extent that I could feel I had my own agency again. I moved back to Toronto. I changed the name from Southern Time to Dreamer in 2020. So, and I adapted I started writing the screenplay, adapting the stage play to a screenplay in 2012, and then adapted the screenplay into the first season of Dreamer starting in 2020. And now it's fully written, fully developed, ready for pre-production. and there will be 5 seasons to Dreamer. So that's the story. That's Dreamer. So it's my way of telling an amazing story of tragedy to triumph, or how, you know, we can take what broke us and make something beautiful, you know, turning lemons into lemonade. Let's say so. Right. So you want to summarize? Yes.
Yeah. أنا يعني بدأت فكرة تكون يعني العالم، غيرت كثير أشياء في حياتي. عانيت ورحت واستقرضت فلوس من أهلي، أمي وأبوي يعطوني $50,000. بعدين رحت سويت فرقة. هذه الفرقة يضم تقريبا 35 شخص. 35 شخص في الفرقة هم يعني كانوا يشتغلوا معي. واحدة منهم حبيتها، تعلقت فيها. بعدين صار اختلفنا. بعدها أنا يعني يأست وطلعت من البلد ورحت أطور. بعدين طورت الفكرة من Southern Time اللي هو سويت يكون حالا، يعني بدل غيرت الاسم، يعني عشان إن أنا طموح وأريد أوسع النطاق، وأريد أنا يعني أوصل شهرة العالمية. يعني عن قصة حياتي أريد أنا ألهم الكثير إن يعني الواحد لما يكون مريض HIV، يعني المرض نقص المناعة، هذه مش نهاية العالم. Done.
Okay, good. All right, next question.
We go to that. Okay, next.
Yeah.
You are also launching a powerful online space through Mighty Network. Who it's for and why? Why
Okay.
now?
Yes, yeah. So what the world needs now is love, sweet love. In 2019, I realized I moved to Toronto to find professional band members to create the Southern Time band, because my musical requires like a rock musical, like Pink Floyd's The Wall or the Who's Tommy. They have a real band behind it. Like the musical, those musicals became famous because the band was already famous. And so I thought, if I gather around these professional musicians who are great, and we become really popular in Toronto, then I'll be able to attract the investors to invest in Dreamer and in Southern Time at that point, and from 2015 for the musical. And so I was a little bit still slow, and so it took me a few years before I realized professional musicians, they don't play unless they're paid. You have to pay the money. They won't play with you. So I finally realized. I have to go to business school. I have to figure out how am I going to make money really from this. So I got my first business education 4 months in end of 2019, and then I incorporated my foundation in February 2020, just before the pandemic hit. But then I identified during those years, in the business course, I identified my target market at about 500 to 800 million people worldwide. Basically, people who are really concerned about the state of our world and they want to do something about it. And so, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. You have to make yourself a better person if you really want to have a real impact, positive impact on our world. So there's about 500 to 800 million people where that's their main thing. The main thing isn't to make money or to get fame or to go to church or to mosque every once a week or whatever. It's to pray every night or every day. It's they just, what really moves them is they really want to make the world a better place, right? 500, 800 million people. Most people in the world want to make money, and the latest greatest thing, well, I want the latest iPhone. So it's and that's why our world is the way it is. But there are good people in the world. So that's what I realized since 2020, that what the value I can bring to the world is this platform. The Dreamer series is a great story. Its position in my company is to attract our target market to our platform. So because it will be music and film streaming and social platform. Currently this 500 to 800 million people do not have a Facebook to connect with like minds online. They have no one central platform where they can meet people of a similar type of person, you know. So this platform will be like Facebook, where they can message each other, meet each other, can post things, can have its own marketplace, can sell and exchange goods. It will be a combination of elements of Netflix, Spotify, Vimeo, Facebook, and DonorBox.org. And also Inspire is a new one where impact investors can meet with impact entrepreneurs. So people who want to make the world a better place, whether you're an investor or an entrepreneur, you guys can meet, a place where you can meet. So it's like all things, what the one thing in common with the platform is this demographic, 500 to 800 million people worldwide. So that's, so to show investors from my company that we have traction, that's why we're starting this Mighty Networks community. Because Mighty Networks is already has the same target market as our target market. And, but it allows one to create a prototype of the social platform they want to develop. So you can have your own branding, you can tailor the spaces according to what you offer your customers. And so that's why we're launching this Mighty Networks community. Official launch is next Monday, June 2nd. Next Monday, June 2nd. So do you want to translate that? Sorry. A lot.
الفكرة إنه أنا يعني اشتغلت على هالمنصة يعني علشان إن أنا أجذب المستثمرين ورجال الأعمال. قبل كل شيء أنا رحت وسويت بحث يعني أدور السوق اللي أستهدفه، فعشان أنا أوصل للمستثمرين فأنا جيت وبنيت هذا المنصة عشان أوصل للمستثمرين والرجال أعمال عشان أطور المشروع. حتى يعني ممكن الناس يعني تبيع منتجاتهم حتى في المنصة يعني كثير الناس يتعارفوا. Done. Can we go to the next?
Yeah.
Last but not least, okay. Last question.
Yeah.
What's your invitation to the world?
What's my what?
What's your invitation to the world?
My invitation to the world? You know, to our target market,
for anyone, like for sorry for interruption, like for anyone ever felt unseen, silent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like I said earlier, like you know, time heals all wounds. That's a saying in the Western world. Time heals all wounds. And it's very true. It's a saying for a reason. So it's, you know, don't give up. Never give up. Just keep on striving. Now I'm married to a beautiful wife and I have a beautiful son, 5-year-old son. They're both HIV negative. I found, you know, I'm about to realize my dreams. I have amazing people working for me, and you know, everything's positive now. I was depressed for many years before I acquired HIV and after I acquired HIV. I had many failed relationships. I hurt a lot of people and I was hurt by a lot of people. But now I'm living in a state of really good karma and positivity. So it's like I'm never, since 2009, before I nearly died from AIDS, I would get sad. I would get depressed. Like days would go on and where I'd be depressed and sad and feeling sorry for myself. And then, but after I nearly died, came out of the hospital, I never get sad for more than 3 hours. Not even less than that. Even 3 minutes. I don't get sad now. It's cool. I never get sad. It's like, it's cool to be that way. So just, and it's, you know, there's external. Another thing is you want your outer world to be great. You got to work on the inner world. You have to do the shadow work. The shadow work is you got to figure out what are my demons? What's holding me back? What's causing, because what happens outside of us is a reflection of what's inside of us. And so you really have to work on questioning. You have to be introspective. You have to really do the work. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be really honest in every way possible. Like writing the Dreamer series was very cathartic for me, because writing it, I've spent decades writing it. And it's very powerful now. It's a very powerful story, but even more powerful is the healing it's done to my soul. Because knowledge is power, and when you really scrutinize something and scrutinize your own soul and your own way, your own personality and your idiosyncrasies work, and you come to peace with that. Again, knowledge is power. The more knowledge you acquire, the better you're off. So seek knowledge, do the inner work, and don't give up. Don't never give up.
Can I translate now?
Yeah, I can translate. Yeah.
يعني خلاصة الموضوع، يعني أنا يعني رسالتي للعالم أن الناس دائما يكونوا لا يفقدوا الأمل، يكونوا إيجابيين في حياتهم ويحاولوا يطوروا من ذاتهم. وأنا يعني شخصيا كنت أكتئب قبل ما أتزوج، يعني بعد ما تزوجت وعندي ولدي عمره 5 سنوات وزوجتي متقبلة ما فيهم المرض، أنا الوحيد فيني المرض، فهذا الشيء نعمة من رب العالمين. فأنا يعني رسالتي للعالم الواحد دائما يكون إيجابي ويجمع معلومات ويقرأ ويتثقف، ما يفقد الأمل في أي شيء، كل شيء له حل يعني. فأنا الحين إنسان سعيد، بس أنا جيت أكرس وقتي، أخذ مني سنوات أكتب قصة حياتي اللي هو عن دريمرز، يعني اللي هو الحالمين. يعني كتبت 6 مواسم للحين، هو قصة حقيقية يعني عن حياتي نكتب. فهذا الشيء أنا يعني رسالتي للعالم يعني وجهها.
All right, cool. Great. Awesome. Anything else, Nasra? Nasra?
Thank you for your time, and very inspiring. Yeah, we had you tell us the real story about your life.
Thank you.
It means the world to many people. Trust me, you are inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you, Nasra. Hopefully we can do this again on another topic.
Yeah, sure. We can. Yeah.
Great.
I'm very pleased to talk to you.
We'll do one next week. That's the plan. Anyways, make these ongoing series if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done and available. Can do better.
Great.
Many interviews.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. See you guys. See you, Nasra.